Hi, thank you so much for joining me for today's process video. And today I've grabbed a 4x6 photo and two 3x4 photos of our trip to New York last year. This was us waiting to get the subway back up to our hotel on New Year's Eve. So I've got some white cardstock here as my base, and I'm just using the duck egg, oh gosh, I always forget what it's called, speckled egg I think it's called, ink, and just spraying that over the page just to create a subtle background. I didn't want it to be a stark white paper. The collection I'm using this time is my travel collection, which has got lots of bits and pieces all thrown in together. I've got Simple Stories and 49 Market in there, possibly some American crafts as well. I definitely find this the easiest way to use my travel bits and pieces up by having them all together in one kit. So now I've got that speckled egg on there, I'm just mixing a little bit of chipped sapphire with that pale blue just to add some splatters across the page, and then I'll leave that to dry. So just using a very small paintbrush and just adding those splatters all over the place. Very subtle, but it just adds a bit of interest to the background. So now that's down, I'm going to work on my title, which is going to be the word Subway. So I'm using the James Outline alphabet stamps from Hey Little Magpie and just spelling out Subway with those outlines. And rather than stamping with an ink pad, I'm actually going to use it more like a watercolour. So I'm going to squish it onto my glass mat and then add the stamps to the ink to add that onto the page. You'll see what I mean in a minute. I seem to be going around the houses trying to explain what I'm going to do there. So I'm going to use two inks merged together. I've got black soot first of all, and then I wanted to mix in a little bit of chipped sapphire as well, just to take the edge off the black. Subways and undergrounds are always very grotty places, aren't they, with all the soot and things that's created, so and all the dirt. So I just wanted to try and get that across using these colours together. So you'll see I have to stamp this a few times. The first stamp gives me a rough outline of exactly where the title is going to be, and I wanted to stamp it in one piece so that I could centralise it onto the page, and then I'm just going back over, bringing the stamps back into those inks to try and darken the outlines, and eventually I will just grab the individual stamps that haven't really stamped very well and just using my finger smear those into that ink and then press them down onto the layout, and that works really well for me. Like I said, I wanted a slightly grimy look for this title, and then once the outline is down I shall come back in with some watered down ink and just splatter that across so that it looks like it's all I don't know, like a rain rain effect, I suppose. You'll see what I mean. So here's that chipped sapphire again, just mixing that in with a tiny bit of the black and just dotting it in very, very roughly into those outlines. And then I'm going to come in with some water and just water that down to smear it so that it goes beyond the outlines of the word, just like that. So I shall leave that to dry and carry on with the rest of the layout now. So that's my main photo of the line that we were on, and I just wanted to create a little bit of a border at the top using some pattern paper. So this is one of the 49 Market travel pieces, and that yellow piece is just a branding strip that I cut off and put back in the box, so I decided to get that used as well. So I'm adding some water to my torn edge just to help with the rolling of that edge. It also keeps it rolled up once it dries, so just going through that. I didn't want too much of the reverse colours showing on it, but just a little bit looks nice. So using my trusty ATG to get that stuck down, and I'm leaving a little border at the top because I want to bring something else into the top there. I've got an idea, and this is the idea. It's one of my film strip die cuts using the dies from Hey Little Magpie, my shop, and I'm just ripping it in half so it looks a little bit more like train lines. You can see those spikes sticking up, which were the parts of the film strip, and then just adding the edges underneath the edge of that paper. So I will tear down those dividers a little bit more. They're a little bit tall at the moment, but just getting it tucked under that paper, trying to work out how to add that yellow, and so I'm just going to cut that down a little and then distress all the edges to add that to the top as well. So just using my Tim Holtz edge distresser to get those edges distressed, and then I'll stick that down. So I'm still on a mission to finish scrapping these photos from New York. I thought I was nearly done with my album. I mentioned to a friend the other day that I only had 5 or 6 layouts left to do. But then when I looked at the album, for whatever reason, there's one day that I've only done one layout. Some of the days I've done multiple layouts of the same event. And then it's just the 29th of December. I seem to have almost completely missed off. So I should be doing a few layouts from that day. But I think this is one of the last ones that I wanted to get in from New Year's Eve, which was our last full day there. So it's nice to have these photos scrapped. So I've just matted that photo onto white cardstock just so that I get that nice crisp edge of white, and it makes it pop a little bit against the rest of it. And then I'm going to do exactly the same with these 2 3x4 photos. I say 3x4, I did trim off a little bit of the excess on both of them, so they're not quite 3x4, but close enough. So one of Ross and Amelia and one of James, standing by the line waiting. And this subway was incredibly busy. We knew that New York was going to be busy for New Year, but we had no idea just how chaotic it was. So with hindsight, we were so happy that we did get the underground straight back up to our hotel. So I was determined to use one of these envelopes. I've got quite a few from the 49er Market collection. I was trying to see if I could get those photos into it, but there's no way I could fit both of them. So I do end up moving it to the right of the page and just filling it with bits and pieces that I use for my journaling and things. You'll see that in a second. In the meantime, though, I decided that I just want to extend that line across the top a little bit more, so I'm using the other side, and I've just torn a section off, and I'm just going to stick that down at the top of the page just to continue that line right the way across. So I line up the 2 pieces. You wouldn't know that they're lined up on top of each other, and that just keeps the gaps equidistant. So still trying to decide how to position these photos. It does take me a little while, but I'm thrilled with the final layout. And just slowly add and build. I knew that I wanted this envelope at the bottom right. There wasn't really anywhere else obvious for it to go, so I've got that stuck down. And then I went through some of the rub-ons that I've got from 49er Market and just start adding a few of those. So I've got this lovely map, which is going down the right-hand side of the 2 photos. Can't find my tool again, so I'm just using my fingernail just to rub that down. They're so easy to use, these rub-ons. Just using the back of your fingernail works really well. The hardest thing I find is pulling the layer off after just finding the edge to get it started. So there we go, that's going to go on the right hand side there. So these photos are going to have to go something like that. So I'm going to get this big one stuck down. The rub-ons are giving me an idea of how to put that. And then these 2 I'm thinking of going there, so I stick those down as well. And I really faff about a lot with exactly how these are going to go, and then move them anyway, because I find something else that I want to add. So just get that one of James stuck down, and then I see this Ticket to Ride, and I think that's going to work perfectly underneath the subway title as a subtitle. So just move those photos over a tiny bit so that it can go on the blank space of that large photo and then down. Just like that. So pleased with how that's looking. So then I see this piece that says "We're Not Lost," so I wanted to add that. We had to let James take charge of following the map on the phone because Ross wasn't particularly good at following directions, so he kept saying it's fine, but we were all getting tired and a bit irritable, so James led us back to the tube station. So those 2 tags are from a Simple Stories collection, from one of their cut apart papers, but I'd previously cut them apart. And then that little ride piece is also from a Simple Stories ephemera pack, I think. So just coming in now with some of the acetate pieces from 49er Market. So I find another little map, which I'm tucking under the bottom there, and also a map frame, which works nicely layered on top of that. I've got that lovely Viewmaster reel, which is cut from black cardstock from a Hey Little Magpie die. Again, our dies are absolutely brilliant, if I say so myself. Do give them a look if you have a die cutting machine. They're absolutely brilliant for getting use out of scraps and things, and just adding extra embellishments to your page. So another little word phrase that says life in the big city that I'm going to add to that acetate down at the bottom. And that acetate says my favourite thing to do is to go where I've never been, which I thought was just nice to embellish that envelope there. And you can see I've got all my ephemera pieces in one of James's JD3D print trays. They're, again, another brilliant addition to the Hey Little Magpie shop. Great for when you're scrapping, and they're all stackable, so you can have different elements in different trays and just stack them all up on your desk ready for when you next create. So just adding some foam pads to the left of that life in the big city phrase, just so that it stands above and stays on a level with it sitting on that envelope. There's quite a lot of bulk there with the envelope. So just punching the holes in these two tags so I can thread some string through after. And then I've got the ticket and that other ticket there from Simple Stories. So I'm just going to rough up the edges of that and get that stuck down. And then stick the tags to one another. I'm still not certain about that green one. I really want to cover up the bit that's got the words on it, so I'm just having to think about what to do with that. And that brown ticket I move forward and back so many times, but it does stay at the front in the end here. So that's that cluster sort of sorted. I'm just going to get that stuck down and tucked into the envelope. And then back to the rub-ons again. I find this little wordy piece, so I'm just going to add that to the left of that acetate underneath the title. Again, just using my fingernail to rub that down. Really must find my tools. They're probably everywhere in all my various drawers on my desk. So that's that down. And then this little direction arrow or compass arrow I want to add. And also these leaves. And I'm trimming this. I'm actually going to cut these leaves in half. I'm just having a look to see if I like the tone of green on the layout, which I'm happy with. So I'm just going to carefully cut in between those, and then I can add some to the left-hand side of that Viewmaster reel and some to the right. So there's the first one. And it's just overlapping that map and everything else there. These rub-ons are really forgiving. They will go over different layers of things without cracking. And here's the other piece. Once again, just using my nail to get that stuck down. There we go. And this is that compass piece that I was talking about. That's just going to go in that little blank space there at the bottom. So it's amazing the difference that these rub-ons make to the page, and you can layer them all up as well. So I just see this edge of a label that's from one of our printables at Hey Little Magpie, and I think that'll work nicely tucked in to the right of that photo of James. So I'm just going to add that there. And then these little license plate pieces are from an Echo Park collection, I think it was. It was just a paper, and I spent some time cutting some of them out, and one says getaway and one says vacation, and those are perfect for covering up that wording on that green tag there. I've also added a little butterfly above the tags just to bring the colour around the page. So sticking that label down. These are the cutter parts you can see that I'd used. I wanted to add another one to the left-hand side because I've got that on the right, just to balance things out a bit. Let me know if you want a flick through of this album when it's complete. It'll probably be a couple of weeks before I do finish it, but it's all in a beautiful album made by my lovely friend Julie Doyle. Her husband is a bookbinder and he makes the most amazing albums. So he's gold foiled it for me, saying New York 2023. So this is another one of our stamps from Hey Little Magpie. and I'm just using I think it's the weathered wood ink, just to stamp this down. And you saw there I added the ink and then I used some water just to water it down so that it gives a really nice effect when it's stamped. And then I'm just coming in with the same ink and adding some splatters. And then finally I just wanted to add the wax twine onto those tags, so through the right hand one, through the left hand one, and then I'm just going to intertwine them through that Viewmaster reel at the bottom of the page. And I will add a dot of glue off camera to hold that in place. I also need to add my journaling, so I'll do that in a second. So there's the string down. I bought in the Simple Stories letters sticker book, and I'm just adding a couple of labels from that, one that says simple and one that says exploring. Trying to remember to pull for other things other than the kit that I've decided to work with. And then I'm using this very old Studio Calico alphabet to put where we were going. So it's Brooklyn to Manhattan. So I just spell that out using these letters. And there aren't any hyphens or anything, so I had to use the number 2. So adding my journaling, just saying why we took the subway. And that's it. I hope I've provided some inspiration. Thank you so much for joining me, and I shall see you again very soon. Bye.